Again. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another webinar with Annika. My name is Tony. I'm a marketing manager here at Annika, and I'm joined by Jessica. Everybody must know Jessica from the DMI also. She's the marketing manager for Annika Academy also. Hi, Jess.
Hi, everyone.
And today we're joined by Lauren Thomas and also Zach Avery. Hi, guys. How are you guys doing?
Hey, good, thank you.
Good, thanks.
As we're saying earlier on, the topic today was quite interesting, how to sync your PR and content strategies like a pro. What are we going to be expecting today? It sounds super interesting and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one, I think.
Yeah.
Just looking at different disciplines and sort of like how we can work with them. So yeah, looking forward to it. Don't want to give too much away yet.
Okay, that's good.
No spoilers.
Just to do a little bit of housekeeping, everyone, you can ask your questions during the presentation on the chat. Myself and Jess will be manning the chat, or you can wait till the end to ask questions. We're going to be doing some polls just to see where everyone is at in terms of knowledge, so that Zach and Lauren can know where the touch points on today's presentations can be. And also, if you would like to download any of the handouts, we have it in the handout section. You should be able to see it now. You can just go in there to download it and peruse on your own time. Okay, Jess, do you want to start with the polls?
Yeah. Okay. So, what PR activities have you done in the past, if any? Traditional, e.g., press releases and print media, digital, so online publications or influencer outreach, or none?
So this is just an interesting one, just to know where everyone's knowledge is at and what PR activities you've done basically in the past. So Lauren and Thomas can know. I'm sorry, and Lauren and Zach can know where to
gauge, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting a nice mixed. About 52 responses.
Okay. Traditional seems to be just about edging in the lead there.
Yeah. Which is
64 people now.
Okay. That's quite interesting because I mean the world is becoming a digital space. But yes, a lot of people will still stick to the traditional ways of PR basically, other than doing like the online publications and also the influencer outreach anyways. But that's quite interesting. Let's see the next one.
Okay, close that one. How would you rate your current PR and content alignment? Fully aligned PR and content work seamlessly together, somewhat aligned, some collaboration but room for improvement, or not aligned, PR and content operate independently?
Ooh, interesting start there. Yeah, I think it's quite the people who are sort of voting not aligned. I think it's the case where things get siloed, don't they?
Yes.
Definitely.
I think in a bunch of companies that I've worked in the past, you sort of discovered that, and it's difficult to get it fully aligned, but when it is, it's really helpful.
Okay, it's an interesting split. Not what I expected. Zach and Lauren, what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I see that there's a small amount that says fully aligned, so hopefully we can still teach you one or two things today.
Yeah.
But somewhat aligned, yeah. I mean, no, it's interesting. It's good. I mean, you know, through this webinar today, we can hopefully give you some more tips and tricks so you can bump up to being fully aligned by the end of this morning.
It's good. Okay.
Okay, should we do the next one?
Yep.
What is your biggest challenge with PR and content? Lack of time or resources, difficulty creating cohesive messaging, and measuring ROI from campaigns?
That's a really good question.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't write them, just so you know. I'm just. You're
not going to take the credit for it.
No. These are all Lauren. They won't be.
That's a good one.
I always find this one really interesting because we were discussing this earlier. Sometimes it can be quite tricky with measuring your ROI from PR, because unlike, PPC, where you can see the numbers and return on investment, sometimes it can be tricky to see where you're at and what's doing well. So we have some few ideas later on that can hopefully shine a bit of light on that and give you some ideas to keep track of how things are going and how they're doing.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's really good.
Yeah, it looks like time and resources are the biggest concerns, which is understandable. I think that's for most businesses, really.
Yeah. I think we should do the last one.
Yeah, we'll do the last one now.
And then the last question.
Which metric do you focus on most when evaluating PR or content success? Media mentions and backlinks, website traffic, engagement, social shares, comments, etc., and leads and conversions.
This will also probably differ depending on the campaigns that you normally run.
Yeah.
Whether it is lead gen or if it is just, sort of like introducing a new brand, you need to build identity. So it's we'll probably see a more even split across this one, I imagine.
Probably, yeah. These are really good questions. Ian Barlow says, none of the alignment options apply. The poll assumes everyone has a business. Not really, actually,
With the alignments, I suppose that we are focusing mainly today on how like SMBs and businesses can sort of maximize their marketing efforts. But I think you could use it from if you've got a personal brand to develop. There's still going to be some insights today that I think you'll find useful, even if necessarily if the questions don't necessarily fit what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've stopped getting responses now, so I'll close. That's that done then.
Okay, so that's done. Lauren and Zach, take it away.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to present my screen.
You're going to see the plus sign at the top of where the camera is, and then you can share your screen or present slides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for answering those polls. In this webinar, Lauren and I are going to discuss, the strengths of PR and content, and how synchronizing activity across organic disciplines can lead to sort of more potent success for particular pieces and things. But before we jump into that, we're going to do some introductions. So first of all, a little bit about who we are. My name is Zach Ave, and I am a senior content account manager at Annika. I have over 8 years of experience in digital marketing. I say over 8 because I can't remember if it's closer to 9 or 10 at the moment. It all kind of gets a bit gray and fuzzy. But sort of in that time, I've worked with a wide, range of clients and sort of seen it all from insurance companies to shark cage diving experiences, which you can imagine don't really have the same goals. I've also sort of been interested in how we communicate. as individuals and as a society. And I sort of find marketing is sort of a real fascinating kind of industry in which to watch this, to see how we work on a micro and a macrocosm. So yeah, that's me. And also, for once, it's the first sort of webinar where I'm not talking about the effect of ChatGPT on content. So a breath of fresh air for those of you who have seen me before.
Cool, thanks, Zach. So, hi, I'm Lauren Thomas. I'm the Digital PR and Content Account Manager at Annika. And this is also my first webinar. So I'm very grateful that I have Zach here with me as well, so we can work together through this. So yeah, again, similarly to Zach, over 8 years, around 8 years, like you say, time flies when you're working in marketing.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of experience in marketing agencies, working with all sorts of different clients and industries, which has really blessed me with some good hands-on experience over the years. And I really love finding ways to, streamline your processes and finding that synergy and harmony between different marketing channels, which is great for this webinar today, because that's what a lot of this will be about.
Thanks, Lauren. So some of you joining us, especially if you're familiar with us through DMI and things like that, are probably familiar with Annika. But if you're new and you're not familiar, we are sort of an award-winning digital agency based in Leicester. We focus primarily on e-commerce, and the thing that sort of makes us stand out really is that we focus on a data-driven approach, led very much by Anne. So thank you, Anne. And also sort of as a multi-channel service provider, we combine, paid, organic, design services to try and meet the needs of clients and provide support, across the entire digital marketing spectrum. This is sort of especially relevant for today's topic. So yeah, I think it's really good that, we've managed to put this together for you.
Thanks. So just a rough idea of what we're going to be going through today. We've set up an agenda. So we will look at what is content marketing, what is digital PR, why you should align these two marketing activities, the importance of cohesive messaging across your PR and content campaigns, some examples of strategies for maximizing your organic efforts, how to measure the combined effectiveness of your PR and content, and then just a bit of a summary and conclusion at the end. And then there will be time for any questions as well.
Yeah. All right. So let's get started. So we're going to start off with just defining some things, first of all. What I'm going to look at what is content marketing and why it's important. So with that, I'm obviously biased, but I believe that content is the cornerstone of organic search. Organic success often comes down to, reaching and speaking to your audience. And, good content is sort of integral to this process. So I believe, effective content can support all your other marketing efforts. If you're using paid activity or PR or whatever it may be, if they come to your site and the content isn't optimized, it's not going to be as effective. So, it can improve website visibility, help you capture new users, grow or improve your brand awareness and identity. And also, you can target your content to support whatever campaigns you're going to be focused on. And that's kind of what we're going to be looking at a bit today.
Cool. So I'm just going to be giving a brief overview of what digital PR is and why it's important for you and your business if you are part of one. So basically, the aim with digital PR is really about building that online presence for your brand. And it can also be part of building relationships, journalists, media publications, even influencers, for example, with strategic content. And there's a few benefits of digital PR, as you can see below. So it can be great for securing backlinks from credible sites, which in turn can help to enhance your SEO efforts with these mentions and backlinks, especially when you get them on high domain authority websites. It can be really good for building thought leadership in your industry. So it might be that you have a CEO, for example, that you want to establish as a thought leader. It can be perfect for that. And then, of course, just generating some buzz and awareness for any campaigns that you might have, whether that's, a new product launch or you're offering new services, things like that. So it can really just kind of drum up that noise and excitement for what you're looking to promote. Okay, so we've covered why content marketing and digital PR are important in isolation, but why would it be a good idea to align your content and PR activity? And that's what we're going to have a look at now. So you may or may not have had this before. I know I have. You've created a really good piece of content and you're thinking to yourself, how can I make sure that I make the most and get the most out of this piece of work? You know it's great and you want to make sure it gets the visibility it deserves. So there's a few ways that you can look to amplify that content. For example, you've done a blog and you think this actually has newsworthy potential. I think that a wider audience would appreciate this piece of content. So you can look to repurpose that blog into a press release to provide some further insights into any news and initiatives or product launches to a much wider audience. But that also works in the other way where you might have done a press release and you think, I think my direct audience, people that are coming to my website would like this content too. You can repurpose it the other way and you can have a press release on your website as a blog. And this might be where you can go into more detail for your customers, speaking directly to them. You can use PR topics to create all sorts of different types of content, whether that's white papers, LinkedIn thought leadership articles, or long form articles. It just really helps position your brand as that industry leader. It really gives you that authority and credibility. And finally, you can also use it to enhance your newsletters. So you can incorporate different PR stories, where relevant and topical into your email campaigns, just to make sure you're really providing that added value for your audience and your customers. Okay, and this is a really important one. Having a solid brand identity and brand messaging is so important when you're communicating to your audiences across different channels. It can help keep your brand look authoritative and consistent, which consumers really love to see when they're deciding, which brand to shop from, which brand to, reach out to for services. So, it's all about no mixed signals. You're having a clear and consistent message and voice and tone across all your different content marketing activities, from your press releases and blogs and social media. And it really just helps to avoid any confusion. If your customers are finding you on different channels and they're seeing those same repeated messages, they know what to expect from you. They start to build that trust with you. Hopefully that sort of business to consumer relationship. Can reinforce your identity. So like I mentioned earlier, you can solidify values, mission, and personality, which is really good for building that trust. And be authentic. Whether you've got a CEO's quote in a press release or a thought leadership blog, it's all about maintaining that singular voice to ensure authenticity, authority, trust, credibility, all those good things.
Mm-hmm. It's a few months ago now, but I did a webinar on tone of voice. I think it was in November. So those of you who attended that may remember that. But this is music to my ears whenever it's sort of about being authentic and consistent across all mediums.
Cool. So like how I mentioned in my intro earlier, I love it when different marketing channels can work together to achieve results in other areas. And this is exactly the case for content, PR, and SEO. So when you align these activities, it can really help to enhance some different areas of your SEO performance. So, for example, when you earn those high quality backlinks from those media publications, and you get links back to your website from those publications, it can help to improve your own domain authority in search rankings, which is really good when you're looking to kind of creep up in those search results and start getting on position 1. Drive traffic, perfect, especially for like e-commerce businesses looking to get customers to their website. With this activity, your content's optimized. So we have keyword optimized content to enhance your search visibility. And sorry, that was my fire alarm. Apologies. Poor timing. So jumping back in, apologies, everyone. Boosting credibility. So as we've kind of mentioned, there's a few repeating themes throughout this, but mentions on, specifically reputable sites, signal to search engines that, your brand is trustworthy, it's authoritative. Customers can find you and trust you, to deliver good services and good business, etc.
I hope no one was listening with, AirPods or something like that.
No, to any headphone users, I'm so sorry. I live in a flat, so there's they like to do fire alarm tests every now and then, but they don't like to tell me when they are. So.
At least we know you're safe.
Yeah, at least you know it works.
We're good, guys. No dramas here. Okay. So this is a really good one for anyone at the start that said that, some of their struggles are about, not having the time and the resource to do these kinds of things. When you align these activities, you're doing exactly that. You're saving time and resource. It can help to really maximize the impact of your campaigns. And something I love to say, work smarter, not harder. Mm-hmm. So as we've mentioned, repurposing your PR assets, lots of different ways you can do this. Press releases into blogs, blogs into press releases, social updates, emails, and if this is an area you look at, podcast scripts, for example. Team collaboration, super important. If you've got different areas in your business, you have a content team and a PR team. If they're aligned and working together on themes and campaigns, then, you're really making sure that you're sending out those key messages and also reducing any chances of accidental duplication, because it can happen. Quality over quantity. You're creating high quality assets that can be reused across multiple platforms. And then, just maximizing your campaigns. So, consistent PR stories can be a foundation for new content, and then reducing the need for any, reinventing the wheel, so to speak.
And thanks, Lauren. So, now we've looked at some of the benefits and things, we're going to look at an example of a campaign that did really well. And it's sort of from 2023, and it helped a brand that reach a new audience and strengthen their sort of thought leadership credentials, really. So case in point is Dove, the skincare brand that I'm sure everyone is familiar with. They decided to create a campaign across social and organic channels to sort of challenge beauty standards. It was in the wake of lockdown, I think it was 2023, and they basically realized that, everyone had been living their life online, and it was something that was close to their hearts. As it's sort of been, educating young people and beauty standards have been something that is identified as a mission for them since, 2004, I think they say. So they started by launching a social media campaign called #NoDigitalDistortion and started gathering data, speaking to experts about how young people see themselves when confronted with social media posts, that drive this idea of perfection. It's not, new. It's something that we're all aware of, I'm sure, living, in an online space. But they basically went to the nth degree. They spoke to experts, they tried to gather data and things like that. This campaign was monitored with some PR coverage to amplify the message. And, it was interesting that multiple news articles, and even today is sort of reviews a couple of years later, claiming it to be one of the most effective modern examples of a campaign for both social PR and content. And that's really interesting. That shows that, even several years after the work is done, you can still see the value from it. But it didn't stop there either, because Dove used, this campaign to generate more content and move from there. So there's various mediums. Case in point, there was this video. It was very simple but effective. So it's a simple message, but it's really, really effective. And as well as, the videos, the social media outreach, that sort of thing. Sorry, Anne, you couldn't hear it. There was some very heartfelt violin in the background. That's as best as I can describe it. Anyone who's got the handouts will be able to sort of view the link when you download it. So apologies for that. But yeah, it was an effective video, an effective campaign, and as well as sort of the social campaign. They had kits for educators and parents. So the content teams went to work, to sort of get this data and put it into actionable insights that people could take home and work with. And, to sort of see how young people were being affected by a barrage of perfect photos. This drove sort of more engagement to the site with PR, and social, which led to more engagement with downloads. And then from there, you could then take those stats and repurpose them for PR again. So, for example, 80% of girls say they compare the way they look to other people on social media. That's a powerful statistic that you can use for future pieces. And also, the success of this campaign allowed Dove to make their name more memorable. And sort of as a thought leader for youth development, education, anti-bullying, all these sorts of general topics that are really important to society, they have now made a space for themselves. And this has sort of helped build resonance with who they are, trust with their brand, which is, as valuable as gold dust. And also showed that there's sort of a human face behind the name, which I think is really helpful, because I think that often nowadays when you're looking at a brand, there's a lot of cynicism about who they may be. But if you're able to associate them with real human emotion, it becomes a much more powerful bond. So yeah, obviously Dove is a great example, but they also have massive budgets. So we're going to now look at, sort of a scaled down version, sort of how, as an SME or, starting out, you can begin to emulate this type of synchronization. So for content teams, it means, regular meetings, regular discussions, ideas, ideations, whatever you call it, across disciplines to develop content that supports PR efforts. This takes time and planning, obviously, but you need to make sure that you block that time off and you have regular meetings for these types of things. You can sort of do this in several ways too. For example, in the Dove piece, we saw there was long format pieces with those resources, research papers, and that's to support topical or trending PR news. Provides a resource for PR teams to draw from, pick out stats, and potentially create several releases, varying different releases based on what you've created. You can also plan ahead for marketing efforts. So if you know that there's going to be a certain release coming out, you can know that the target page that they're going to be directed to needs to be optimized. So you need to make sure that if this is going to go to a pledge page or a support page of some kind, we can make sure that the user journey, the user experience, as well as the SEO visibility is all in the best shape possible, to make sure that you're getting people to engage with the site and sort of move where you want them to go. Whether that's linking off to products or linking off to contact forms and things like that, you can sort of plan that all in advance. And also, this is a great one, is content marketing also benefits from not having a hard limit on word counts. I'm sure Lauren can attest to the fact that with press releases, you've got to be pretty strict with how short they are and how bite-sized it is, depending on the publication.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah. Whereas if it's hosted on your site, it's a download, it's an article you've created. You can sort of make it as long as you like. You can make it a full white paper if you want. You can also introduce ideas that leads to further general topics and discussion that necessarily might not be used for PR, but helps you get into a space where you can increase your visibility. Like, for example, with Dove and skincare, they're not just now associated with skincare and beauty products, but with youth movements and with education and, these sort of things that give them so much more power. So where am I? Sorry. So, sort of, I think we're going to look at some strategies now for maximizing the organic efforts. Sorry, lost my place there. And for this, Lauren and myself have kind of looked at doing a very short sort of shared content calendar to help you sort of gauge it.
Yeah. And then before we jump into that content calendar, we were kind of thinking about what are some examples of like how these kinds of things can be applied in real life. So we had a look at the importance of strategizing for seasonality. So anyone that, maybe in marketing already knows that seasonality is so important. It can really play a key role as well for aligning and maximizing your content and just for your general business. So the example here, a business that specializes in outdoor living, so think garden furniture, things like that, they would really want to prioritize their content creation, distribution, and publication in months where their audiences are most active. So we're thinking those kind of spring months, for example, and obviously into summer as well, but definitely starting to drum up that activity in spring, as opposed to in the winter where there's, typically a bit of a lull in interest and activity for this industry. So, people might have it in the back of their minds in the winter, but it's only really once the weather starts to change and the sun comes out that, people really start thinking about upgrading their garden with some new furniture, for example.
And also, I think it's interesting to note that, sometimes when it comes to seasonality, sometimes go with the seasonality, others go against the seasonality. Like I think in recent years, we've seen people or brands often, where in the past they would, go just full send on Black Friday, but then you have other brands that are conscious of, like product waste and things like that, and might go against Black Friday or post a campaign that might be more conscious minded based on it. So it's kind of the push and pull of the seasonality, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely. But yeah, at Annika, we make sure that we kind of, flex our campaigns and have that, flexible model and approach just to make sure that when we're working with our clients, we are delivering, content that's timely and topical, just to make sure that they're getting as much exposure as they can from when there's more audience intent, people are active, looking and ready to get products or services. So this is a great example here. We've put together how a plan could look and how you can, visualize the data in a plan that's easy to access. People can dip in and out and just see everything all together in one place, really.
Can you see that? Is that all right? It might be a bit smaller, but if I can zoom in a bit more.
If you just make sure the screen's maximized on full screen, it should be all good.
Yeah, it should be as big as I can make it. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I'll just kind of talk you through this section. So this is the PR tab. So within this section, you can basically start to brainstorm and plan titles, topics, and ideas for your PR activity. So we've kind of broken it out here. Do you mind scrolling up a little bit?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Thanks. Yeah. So you can break it down. Obviously, you can kind of tweak it however works best for you. But this is just an example of the kind of template that we use when we are making PR and content plans. So you've got your content pillar. So whether you're, generating sales, you just want media coverage, things like that. Your type of content activity. Is it an article? Is it an offer? Is it a comment? Things like that. Issue date, you can plan, when you want things to start going out in line, as we said, with seasonality or any key dates in the year. You can pop in your title, a summary where you're explaining a bit more about that title and what you're hoping to achieve or what the article might address. Your call to action, really important, whether you want to be pushing people to browse a specific category or just visit the website to find out more. You can highlight any publications you want to approach, and then just a status as well, because housekeeping is always good to keep you on track. So there's a few different examples in here of just different content that you could start doing. So in January, it's all about decluttering, refreshing your space, cleaning and tidying. And I myself have had lots of articles come through from, Good Homes, things like that, where they're pushing this, decluttering message. So that's very topical for January. And then spring cleaning too. And then moving into February, again, about that seasonality, February, Valentine's Day. So this is an example of a furniture brand that might want to push Valentine's themed items. So think, homeware, dining accessories and things like that. With a follow-up article that really complements that one above with, setting up your table, with dining wear, practical tips and advice, things like that. And then moving into March, this is where we're getting into like the, garden territory. So we're thinking, how can we pique that interest in consumers with some interesting articles? And this one's really good. This first example, the conversation pit. So this was a trend that was going around for a while where people kind of get garden furniture and arrange it in a way that's very conversational. So think, circular arrangements and things, nice and open, everyone can see each other. And then the last one, do you live in the UK's sunniest city? I would click on that probably because I know that I wouldn't be. But yeah, gripping title, hook in there, things like that.
Just very quickly, I've noticed Louise and Francis can't see the document at the moment. It should be, if you look in the handouts and you scroll to the slide with the link on it, hopefully you should be able to open that. So let me know if that works. I'm not sure why. Can everyone else see it?
Yeah, is anyone else having any issues?
Just very quickly before we move on. Okay, it's working for some.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. For those of you who can't see it, it should be in the handouts, the slide handouts. There should be a link that you can click on. I think it's slide, I want to say between probably 23 to 25, somewhere like that. Okay, so it's working on, the link works on the handout, which is good. Excuse me. Yes, also classic. Anne says you may have to refresh your browser. That might also help. But yeah, let us know, and then we can move on. But just on this topic, these sorts of PR articles are really helpful because it provides fresh ideas for content, which we'll look at now. The conversation pit, for example, I think is really interesting because then it can lead to so much more about, okay, how do people talk to one another? And you can really explore those kind of topics, can't you?
Yeah.
And then if I look at the content side first, then we'll look at the calendar. Is that all right?
Sure.
So on the content side, these pieces are sort of designed either to you sort of preempt or support the PR after the fact. So in January, for example, the declutter, you've got PR everyone talking about decluttering. Decluttering is really important. January, spring clean, all that sort of stuff. So from a content perspective, what we might do is sort of, okay, what to throw away when decluttering. So here's a guide answering questions about how do I go about decluttering? What to keep, what to recycle, what to upcycle, where to recycle, all that type of information. And then on top of that, what you might do is spend some time saying, okay, the chances are that if people are looking to declutter in January, then what we should do is look at the storage products that we have on the site. And if there's a dedicated page or a page that we can dedicate to it, and then sort of optimize that, even maybe change the seasonality for the month, something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And then similarly in February, you've got, classic Valentine's. So we've just got sort of how to plan a memorable Valentine's at home, which will then incorporate the decor items that were suggested in the PR. And then again, similarly, you could do target product page optimization. Maybe focus on that because there might be several, different areas that you need to cover. And then finally in March, because it's a larger piece, you're going to focus all your time and effort on one larger feature. So for this one, I did some digging, and I found that, if you go to the Met Office, you can find from, I think, 1910 till 2024 currently, you can find all the data on rainfall, sunshine hours, everything, and it's sort of separated by region and things like that. So what you could do is you could take that data, turn it into an Excel spreadsheet, and isolate some key figures to see. You could identify, okay, these are the areas of the UK where homeowners can enjoy the most sunshine, and thus we want to make the most use of their garden or better use of their garden. Or another angle could be, one of the things I noticed, I think, in the data was that over time, because of lots of global factors, we're seeing more sun earlier in the year, and sort of moving from the south up towards the north, you're sort of seeing more sunshine throughout the year. So it might be beneficial to invest in your garden because there's more sunshine year on year, which is one way of looking at it. But it's all for discussion. It's an interesting topic, but these can all help feed into PR, depending on your industry. So once you've got your PR and your content, this is where it comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah. So this tab is basically just so you can see exactly what's been going out, what's planned to be distributed, what's been issued, and any coverage you may have achieved. So this is like, okay, we've brainstormed in the PR tab, we've got some content ideas, what's exactly going out now. So you can see we've just got some of those titles in there that we spoke about. They're the ones that we're happy to go ahead with. And it's just broken out, with the date of release, title and summary, status and coverage. So it's just a really good way for you to keep track of, what activity that you've got going out. Again, like we spoke about earlier, avoiding any sort of duplication issues. Make sure that you're releasing, nice and fresh and topical content throughout the year.
And I think also importantly, something not to overlook is this date of release, especially when it comes to the next section, which is sort of monitoring success and things. Because if you know when things are going out and you've got the date, you can really tell in the data where it's had the most effect.
Yeah.
That's an example, just a very short sort of single quarter example. You can obviously expand it and do it over 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, however long you feel. I don't know about you, Lauren, but I think there needs to be a certain, agility, because you want to be sort of responsive to certain things. You want to leave some space in there, maybe do it in, sort of sprints, maybe of a few months at a time, or however whatever works for you, but just leave space in there in case you need to react to something, basically.
Yeah, definitely always leave space for reactive commentary, because we have that a lot where, we might have our standard plan, which is things we know are definitely going to be distributed and written and created. But if you ever see an opportunity that you want to jump on, always make sure you factor in some extra time for that.
Okay. So if I go back to here, I'm going to have to zoom out again. So apologies for the technical difficulties. Oh. Sorry, my internet's a bit slow at the moment.
Blame it on the storm, Zach.
Yeah, the storm in Manchester. I'll just go this way.
Yeah.
It's one of the first things I do whenever there's an internet outage. Is I go to like social media to see is it my provider, because I just need to know I'm not going crazy. So with that in mind, we're going to sort of look at how to gauge the results, because strategies are only as good as the results they provide. Mm-hmm. So measuring the success is really, really important.
Yeah.
So with that, what we've got is we're going to go through these in a bit more detail, but these are sort of a couple of the key metrics to keep in the back of your mind when you start building out your reports, or what you're looking for. So depending on what you're trying to achieve, you'll look based on the tools that you have and the disciplines, but you should see stats influence these pretty much. So for Lauren, if you want to take PR.
Yeah. So as I mentioned sort of earlier on in the beginning, PR can sometimes be one of the harder activities, I think, to maybe track and report on. Like I said, with paid media, you can see exactly what your return on investment is to see exactly how well you're doing. However, there are some ways that you can check to see how your content-led PR campaigns are performing. So, for example, your media mentions. You can set up Google alerts to track when your brand name's been mentioned in reputable sites. And really with that, the more mentions and the greater the coverage and performance. And this really does work wonders for increasing your brand awareness. So tracking brand awareness can be tricky, but if you're seeing more media mentions of your brand in that media space, then you're doing something right. Backlinks, love a good backlink. So if you got your article featured in a really good publication. So thinking back to our example business earlier, the furniture business. they may have done an article that was featured in Ideal Home, for example. Lots of consumers know that title, they're familiar with it, and it's trustworthy. And if Ideal Home were to link back to that client from their website, then that works wonders for, improving rankings, for your SEO, and then just gaining your site a vote of confidence from other websites.
Mm-hmm.
And then that feeds really nicely into the domain authority. So you're achieving coverage, you're achieving backlinks, and that, in time will help to work to grow and improve your own domain authority as well.
Yeah, domain authorities, it's really valuable, isn't it? But it's so hard to improve. It just takes real concerted effort on the content and PR front from experience.
Slow and steady wins the race with domain authority.
So for content, you're going to want to focus on your SEO. So that's where you're going to most likely look for boosts in your overall traffic. Because as new users are drawn to your site, you're going to be looking at, from this traffic as it filters down, what is the engagement rate? Are they spending more time on your site? Where are they going to after that initial landing? Have you provided, links within the text that leads to where you want the user to go? And hopefully, if it works perfectly, you might have a few of these people work their way down the funnel and convert, whether that's form fills, calls, sales, that sort of thing. It's sort of just the general marketing funnel, and that's what you're looking to sort of emulate. And then I suppose the best thing is that you want to check these results sort of side by side, don't you, to see how they influence each other. I think that if you use social listening tools, Lauren, you may be able to speak about a bit more than me. You have better experience with them, I think.
Basically, with like social listening tools, you can just see what conversations are happening in the media space, essentially, kind of similar to when it's like the Google alerts and the mentions. It's a similar sort of idea where you can just see what the general conversation is around your brand, and you can see the sentiment. For example, is it positive discussion? Is it negative? And if there are, any negatives, which hopefully there aren't, but if there are, you can see those, and you can then, jump on that and do sort of reactive crisis comms if you need to. But hopefully you'll see lots of good, positive sentiment conversations with social listening tools as a result of all of this activity that you've been doing.
Mm-hmm. And then also from for a traffic perspective, the best way to sort of look at it is to look at the influx of traffic to see if it's, first of all, if you have seen an increase in visibility and visitors and things like that, but then also to check the dates of the peaks and troughs, to see if they sort of coincide with the release of articles and pieces, so you can sort of see, okay, this went to press and 3 days later we saw this spike. So it's one of those things where it can be difficult to prove definitively, because understanding how people use the internet is kind of like herding cats, and it's just arcane. But by using sort of a unified approach where you can sort of see both the resonance on your social monitoring services as well as your SEO services, your monitoring services, you can then sort of draw a line from campaign to conversion, and you can sort of prove that the campaign's been effective, basically. So that's kind of how you want to both in the campaign itself and in the measurement of the campaign, you want to sort of work together to bring across those results.
Exactly.
That's kind of what we have for you today. I do think organic marketing sort of thrives on this cross-discipline success. I think that by planning together and you sort of play into each strength, you can create campaigns that lift all marketing efforts, not just organic PR and SEO, but also PPC and things of that nature. So I think, done right, campaigns that sync well, they'll help you sort of build your brand identity. You can create a unified voice, which is one of the most important things I think today, is that authenticity and thought leadership. You can amplify your efforts. A lot of people, if you're starting out, you don't necessarily have time to create something at scale and create loads and loads and loads of content. So rather than doing that, just focus on one or two things and get the most investment you can out of that. If you're going to spend hours researching a topic to write about it, make sure you are amplifying those efforts to get the benefit as much as possible. And then finally, this combined effort should help boost your organic performance and improve your domain authority, which helps improve literally everything. And then from there, you should be on the way up. So thank you for your time. We'll be around to answer questions. Obviously, I can see a load in the chat, so we'll go through those.
Yeah.
I think some of them are further up, so I may have to scroll up. That's sort of a very brief introduction to syncing your PR and content.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. That was quite an insightful session. To be honest, most of the questions in the chat, people were just like responding to each other. But one that actually stood out was one from Sophia. She says, for a small business that just established, how much PR works is good enough to incorporate with the content within the first month with a very limited budget and resources? Any tips for the most effective channels and the category of content?
Okay. As a small business, you're probably going to, if you're just starting out, you're probably going to want to look at longer tail key phrase content for a start. That's often some of I'd say the quicker and easier to sort out, answering specific questions and things of that nature. It's easy to compete for. I'm not sure about the PR side. Lauren, which if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think first thing first for a small business is just set really clear goals for yourself. So before diving into anything specific, what do you want to achieve from your PR activity? Is it brand awareness? Do you want to drive traffic or build trust and credibility? So really factor that into your strategy, because if you have lots and lots of different goals, you are risking spreading yourself maybe too thin in these first instances. So, set some clear goals and really factor that into your strategy. And in terms of channels, small businesses, low budgets, obviously you can do organic social, which is completely free, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, things like that. And with that, just make sure you're picking the channels that you think your audience would be most active on. For, specifically with PR and outreach, you could, for free, very easily find the contact information for the news desk for local newspapers, or reach out to blogs or community newsletters, for example. And then with that, you just want to be sharing your, unique business proposition, things like that. And then, just maybe where you can find opportunities for collaboration.
Yeah.
But just focus on telling your story, set some clear goals, think about any key business announcements, and
that's good.
Hopefully help.
That's good. That was such an insightful session. Just to reiterate again, everyone, the handouts are in the handout section. The recording of this webinar will be sent out. It takes a few hours for it to be, put together, and then it can be sent out to everyone. Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you so much, Zach. Thank you for this insightful session. And next week we have Anne Stanley taking up on a webinar. It's quite exciting. Everyone go ahead to register. It's on the website. I look forward to seeing everyone there again next week. Thank you guys for joining, and have a beautiful day.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, guys. Thank you.
No problem. Bye-bye.
Bye.